This is Dan of Vagabond Awake.
𝗕liche from 𝗕𝗵𝗲𝗀.
And today we'd like to talk about how to travel when you are broke. So I was working with my laptop and for many years trying to figure out a way to make a living online. And I hadn't yet achieved it, without having a job. And I hadn't achieved it yet. And one day I got an email and I was being laid off. And so I thought, should I look for another job or should I finally get my business running? And I decided that I would set some money aside and I would live off that money until the business paid for itself. But it was a limited amount of money, so we had to live much cheaper than we were living up until that point.
Well, travel in the budget is also more fun. We have a lot of fun experience as well.
Yeah, it's for example, I think it was a Christmas of 2017, we were staying in a condo in Medellin that was about $35 a night, really nice view, really nice apartment. Mm-hmm. And we suddenly realized that if we burned money at that rate, that it would probably, we'd run out of the money that I was setting aside to pay for our living before the business was paying for itself. So we decided to reduce the amount per night we were willing to pay for an apartment.
Yeah, and also we are writing a report for 𝗪cie in Paradise. Hey, we have to set an example as well. Well, we have one example that I found out that in KL that we live in around like $1,000 per month in KL, Kuala Lumpur. So I like, well, let's do it.
Let's try to live on 1,000. So that was the idea and that was the motivation also. And so we set a budget target. We were trying to stay under $20 a night if possible. And what we wanted for both our own pleasure and also for the new business was to have an apartment, have a Wi-Fi, and have a kitchen.
Because, and AC.
So, and we were often only staying in place for a week. So it's harder to bargain a lower price per night when you're not bargaining for a long time, let's say 30 days. And so we had multiple challenges all come at us at once. And so we had to figure out new creativity, ways to do things.
It's not easy, but it's possible. Just need to spend more time to find those places.
Yeah. And so what we're going to cover in this video is the 5 or 6 ways that we were able to save money per night. And we weren't always successful, but these were a big help for us. And so when we were broke, they helped us. So we thought we'd share them with you. And one of the first things we started doing was instead of getting the whole apartment, we looked for apartments that were shared, where you're sharing an apartment with the person who lives there.
That's called shared room. Yeah, so you rented a room, and we normally will find a room with our own bathroom.
Yeah. And
then you can stay in a place that you want to stay. Example, in Mexico City. With that kind of price, it's very hard to find. So in $20, we found in a nice area with a sharing with a lawyer. So
yeah, really nice lady, very successful and interesting to chat with.
Yes.
She spoke English and was in a really good area of town.
Yes.
By the way, it's in our Mexico City retired cheap report where we stayed, if you're interested. And the nice thing about it is we still had the kitchen.
Yes.
We still had a router that was in the apartment we were in.
Yes.
And so we were able to make meals at home to save money. And even when we would go on day trips, we would make like lunches for picnics and stuff. And so we would save more money on food. We weren't eating in restaurants so much. Mm-hmm. And so it was a way we could try to keep our nightly rate down.
Yeah, and also it's nice to be, talk to the people and they share about the information about the city we want to go see. So about food, about nightlife, that's very nice.
Yeah, for example, again, in the Mexico City apartment, this lady knew Mexico City really well. She was from there and she told us the neighborhoods that we should walk around, and which one she thought we would like.
And no,
her
so
favorites.
in the Mexico City, we stay in San Cristobal, Campeche, Guadalajara. We even make friends with them, and we are actually the cooking our dish.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Yeah, so it brings something to the table that you don't have when you're in your own apartment. It's this concept of community.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in a community, and you can talk to people, and a lot of information comes out of it because they're a local and you're a visitor.
Yes.
And so also the kitchen, more the knowledge part of it, and also we have friends that we still keep from those times.
Oh yeah, the Peru.
Like the lady in Peru. She's traveling the world now, and we
Yes.
watch and comment on her Facebook and stuff. And so we have connections around the world from that. And we also had fun with some of the people. Went out to have.
They bring us to go out to eat, to enjoying the town, and tell us about the story about that town, which is very nice.
Yeah, so it has some side benefits. The other thing we do sometimes is we'll stay in a hostel, and we'll get a private room in a hostel. And I don't know if you know what a hostel is or not. It's not as common in America as it is in Europe and other parts of the world. But it's basically there's what they call shared rooms. What do they call us? Dorms.
Dorm.
And mostly backpackers stay in these dorm areas where they might only pay, $6 a night or $10 a night or $12 a night, and then they can travel longer and further. But also they often have these private rooms. So we'll get a private room in a hostel, and it has a community kitchen you can cook in. Often has really strong Wi-Fi because most foreigners that are traveling are heavily dependent on the internet. And versus if you try to get a cheap hotel, sometimes the router's like down the hall, and it's a very slow router. They're not as conscious of internet.
Mostly the hostel is a young people living, and they need internet. That's why the Wi-Fi it will be more stronger than the normal hotel.
Yeah, so again, a hostel, the private room gave us our privacy, also one with its own bathroom, but also we have the common kitchen we can cook in, and we have really good Wi-Fi, and we have that same community. We meet people, sometimes go out and hang out with them. You saw in one of our earlier videos, we interviewed Charlotte, who is here traveling the world, and so it's just an example of the kind of people you can meet by staying in hostels. And where did we stay in hostels? We're in one now. In fact, this is a hostel room we're in.
Yeah, and also we stay in Lanta, and they have a very nice kitchens.
Yeah.
Not kitchen for us to cook, but they prepare the food, so it's including, which is much more nicer.
Yeah, and that is the next one actually. Lanta was what we call a co-working space. Now, co-working spaces are something invented by digital nomads, which are people that work on their laptop and travel the world. And those often have, they're a little bit like a hostel. They often have dorm rooms if you're on a really tight budget, or you can get a private room. Often digital nomads want a private room because they're making money as they travel the world. They're not as cost conscious. But it's the same thing. You have like a community area where people are working, and you learn about each other's businesses and other ways to make money or other ways to save money, and places, things to see.
Yes, I would say the hostel and the co-working space is almost the same thing to me. It's just for the normal people, they would think hostel is a party place.
Yes.
But sometimes co-working space and a hostel is almost the same. Example, the room is a hostel. We will stay in Colombia as well. We stay in the hostel, which is very nice, people surrounding around. And also we stay in Spain and Porto.
Yeah.
And we share a lot of information, and we hear a lot of story, a lot of interesting story, even a dating story, which is that Gabe's 40 years old. And also in the co-working space as well. You've been in Bali, the co-working space.
Yeah, Bali, Koh Lanta. I've been to several co-working spaces. I would say the main difference is that you have to have a really strong internet if you want to call yourself a co-working space, because people want to have live video conferences. They want to have upload YouTube videos and that kind of thing really fast.
Mostly the co-working space is also very modern. Like Selena in Latin America is very famous co-working space and party area as well.
Yeah, kind of mixed.
We've been to the 𝗙𝗢𝗄, the first Selena founder.
Yeah. So a lot of these co-working spaces are they seem to attract digital nomads, and not all of them, but many of them are work hard, play hard people.
Yeah.
That means they want to work hard a few days a week, sometimes, up to 3, 4, 5 days, but then they want to play hard on the weekend, which might mean, doing rappel or surfing or jumping off cliffs or whatever. And so they're interesting people, and they're fun to learn from. And like Chung said, mostly hostels and co-working spaces are younger people, but not all. I mean, there are people my age you'll see from time to time in them also.
Oh yeah, they do.
Yeah. So next up that we want to tell you about is this concept called couch surfing. Now, couch surfing is basically people that are world travelers that travel all the time, and they join this organization called 𝐿𝐿surfing.org. And they put their couch up for free, basically. And if you want to go to a city and you don't have any money or very little money, and you can sleep on someone's couch, but then you often will put your couch up when you're in your hometown. So it's kind of like you stay at my place free, I'll stay at your place free.
It's not really of couch. If they have an extra room, you can say it, but they will specify in their couch surfing profile whether they will give you a bed or just a couch or a private room.
And also they're reviewed. In other words, like if you're other people that have stayed on their couch review it, so you kind of know it's not just this random person whose house you're staying in that you're worried about or something. You'll have multiple reviews of people who stayed there, so it gives you an idea of kind of maybe music they like or what they're into, so you can find someone in that city that you feel related to in some way. Now, I've never personally surfed on couches, but before I left the United States in 2007, I had put my couch up, and several people came and stayed. And also, when I did leave the U.S. and I went to India, we met many expats that were traveling around India, and they stayed on our couch. Had a lot of fun doing that too. So that's couch surfing. Another thing, by the way, I have a video on this next one, house sitting. You've probably heard of 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝐿𝑠itting.org. We interviewed a couple that have been doing it over the last few years, and they save a lot of money because they just go stay at a house for 2 weeks or 2 months or even longer sometimes. And sometimes it's very expensive parts of the world where you wouldn't have been able to go if you were running on a tight budget. But because they go there to water the plants, take care of the animals, and they live there for free, and often they have a car.
Yes.
And these are they're often homes or apartments and this kind of thing, and they have their own router and internet and kitchen, so it satisfies all of our requirements. We've never done house sitting. In fact, I've never joined a house sitting service because we're more controlling each place we go to write our Retire Cheap reports as we travel around the world. But it's something you should consider if you have an open schedule. The downside of house sitting maybe is that it's random where you're going to be accepted, so you might have to fly somewhere, for example, and so it might get expensive travel-wise. So, but if you in one of the populated areas on house sitting, and there's multiple opportunities, and you don't have to go as far, maybe just a train or a bus, then it might be a win for you, even on a low budget.
Yes.
I also interviewed a fellow who lived in his van for, I think it was about a year, if I recall. It's a really nice van.
Very beautiful van.
But there are people that just buy an old van and fix it up and drive around, not only in the U.S., but in Europe. And when I was living in San Diego back in my 20s, I think they were from Amsterdam, a group of 4 guys bought a Volkswagen bus for me and drove it all the way south from San Diego, California, south. So people do it internationally also.
Yes.
And so that's a way to save money is by living in a van. And often you're camping or going to campsites or that sort of thing. Now, the one thing we haven't done much of because we haven't had luck of it is staying in cheap hotels. Sometimes online or walking around a city, you'll find a really cheap hotel. But when we've done that, there's a couple problems that it creates. One, the internet often isn't very good in a really low budget local hotel. And so if you're trying to work online, it's not usually a good solution.
Not easily.
And the other thing is you don't have kitchen access, so you end up buying all your meals. So why is it important to save money? I talk about in several of my videos about how early on I thought I would establish a base somewhere in the world that was cheap to live, maybe for 9 months of the year. And then for the other 2 to 3 months of the year, I would go to travel to more expensive places on the money I saved by living in the cheap part of the world, that, you know, the beautiful cheap part of the world with low cost of living. And then I would have more money to travel to some of these expensive places. So you can use it for that. I mean, if you're on a fixed retirement income of some kind, you can stay somewhere cheap, and you could save $300-400 a month, you know, for 9 months of the year. Then you can go out and use some of these tricks to go to more expensive parts of the world and stay there longer.
Yes,
so
that's true.
That's kind of the main idea behind this. And so whether you're on a budget and you're trying to do it all year, or you have a little bit more, but you want to go to more expensive places and stay longer.
The best fun thing to do is go to find the hostel or the co-working space. There's really more fun over there. They will have like weekly plans, like Tuesday is a movie day, and then Thursday is a karaoke day,
right.
And then, you know, they have a plan, so which is nice.
It's nice meeting people.
Yes.
It really is a nice change, and it feels good when you go to a new city and you can ask questions of people that've been there for a few weeks or whatever. So anyway, that's how to travel when you're broke.
Not really. I found it's fun. Sometimes when we travel and we stay in the places for, you know, renting an apartment, you know, sometimes we want to have a change, we will go to the hostel or the co-working space, which
that's
is
a good
nice.
point. You can feel isolated sometimes when you have your own apartment and you're in a new city. So if you're slow traveling in the world and you're going from apartment to apartment, maybe staying in each city for a month, it could take you a few weeks to really meet people.
Yes.
But if you go to a hostel or a co-working space, you have almost instant community. So
yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video.
Yeah. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to
like,
comment,
and subscribe,
and ring the bell.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.